Let's say you find a super cool opportunity on like a LinkedIn, or you know this cool company that you're dying to work for, and maybe they don't have a role, but you know someone, or you see someone interesting who studied something similar to you or has the job title you're obsessed with. That's a great time to reach out. And to reach out, there's usually like one of two methods, like LinkedIn or email are the two that I would advocate. I've never gotten like a Facebook message or a tweet like that's like, hey, Katie, will you talk to me about jobs? But the unconventional methods are always an option. But personally, I would advocate for LinkedIn or email if you have their email or contact information. But it's pretty simple to reach out. And if you're a student or a new graduate, like, it's probably the best thing you can do in my mind is learning about other people, their jobs, their roles. It's something I wish I did more of in college, and I'm a little jealous. I can't go back and repeat it so that I can talk to more cool alumni or people I know, because when you're a student, like, your job is to learn. That's your job. It's in the job title, you're a student. And so networking is a great extension of that, because you're learning about the corporate world and what people do in their companies. And I think commonly something I've heard a lot in my office hours is people are nervous about reaching out. And I totally empathize. Like, it's nerve-wracking. What if they don't respond? What if, I don't know, what if the worst thing in the world happens and I don't know, the mind snowballs. But it's not just a take when you're asking someone for their time. It's also a give, in that when you're a student and you're giving your ear, like you right now listening to me, people are so happy to talk. And that's why I have my office hours, is I love to share my knowledge and I guess mentor another generation, to speak broadly. It's definitely not as cool as that. But definitely I implore all students to reach out. Again, I mentioned I did it in college. I reached out to 2 people a week, did not have 100% response rate, but I was able to talk to such cool people. Like the president of Y Combinator and I met for coffee back before COVID. And we talked all about like biogenetic warfare and what will happen if there's a pandemic. And, it's very pertinent now. And I talked to also a CEO of this really cool company, Storyworth, which is basically like, books it's like a book kit that you work with your parents to kind of tease out their memories and write a book about it. And my point being is that these people are so cool and they gave me the time of day. And so I really implore you to network. But the way to do that, again, as I mentioned, is through like email or LinkedIn. There's a couple of best practices that I'll recommend. One, keep it short and sweet, especially if you don't have LinkedIn Premium and you can't write a whole in-mail message. You only have 250 words, but you can do a lot with those. So keep it short and sweet. Something about like how you found them, like, hi, I'm Katie. I found you on LinkedIn. Your profile's super cool. Say something about yourself. I am so interested in your company because of this, or I read this cool article about you and I want to know more. Say something about why them and their company, maybe their role. Your role as a PM at Microsoft is something I'm really interested in. I would love to talk further if you have some time in the next coming weeks. And then, thank you, Katie. I usually include a contact number, like a cell phone, just so it kind of tees up the eventual phone call. The more personalized, the better. I once emailed the VP of Pokemon. She covered like Pokemon for Asia. And I wrote this whole big thing about how I loved Pokemon as a kid, which I guess now that's out there on the YouTube world. But I loved it and all these things. And I don't know exactly why she responded, but I'm sure it had something to do with how much time I put into the email. The other thing I'll say with networking is sometimes, I've also heard this in office hours, people wonder why they're not hearing back from people they've reached out to. And I recommended that they actually take some of the overhead off of the person that a student is reaching out to, in that they include a couple of different like times. So you'll include a couple dates and time chunks. So if you're asking for like 20 minutes of someone's time, which you'll always get 30, usually calls are 30, but if you ask for 20, it sounds a little less of an ask, a little trick.
And how about a little agenda do you have in mind? How about your
yeah.
For the person?
Yeah, so
they know what the call is going to be about. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Definitely during networking. I mean, it's a conversation. It's not just like a check the boxes. And so I think a lot of the best questions I've been asked in office hours or in networking calls are the ones that are different, that you don't hear every day. It's definitely useful to ask people, like, how'd you get from point A to point B, maybe a school to a role or one role to the next, or how did you find this opportunity, as well as like their day-to-day work and the culture. I would always recommend asking those 3 questions because you'll get different answers. But I think to your point, like the fun questions that turn into conversations that mean something, that when you circle back around with them, if you're asking for a referral or, just want to hear back from them and maintaining the relationship, that they get excited about you. There are a lot of just the questions that come to your mind that are a little more personal. I personally like what excites you about the world today, or like, something in the technology landscape, because it gives the person like so much bandwidth to talk about something they've been dying to talk about. Another good question, if you're like actively interviewing at the company or interested, is like, tell me about a memory or like something about your company that like exemplifies the culture. That's how I learned one of the companies I was applying for had rooms that were named after mathematicians. And that's something that was not on the website. Yeah, that I had no idea about. But I mentioned in an interview, and the interviewer was like, how did you know that? That's amazing that you reached. No, I mean it. There's a lot of great questions on Medium that, like, just peruse Medium. You can say like good questions to ask people, but definitely try and find like some extra questions to spice up the conversation, to learn more about the person, how they think, but also have more of a sparkly conversation. That's my best tips for what to talk about.
I think once you break the ice, you'll find a way. And the conversation
totally.
And even they're going to interact, so that should not be that nerve-wracking. Just go out there and send that message, take that call.
Totally.
Yeah.
What's the harm? Takes 2 minutes.
Sure. Yep. So I think this is like a constant process, and not like just when the applications are open, you go and apply, but there is some constant networking that you have to do. Networking is not done in a day, and well, so yeah, I think that has worked really well for you.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you bring up, is, there's always a rush to network when applications open, but as much as you can, if you're interested in a company or a place, like, if you have the time, send out a couple emails now and learn about them ahead of the recruiting schedule. That way, it's not just the check kind of conversation. Oh, can you refer me to this position? It's a fun, interesting conversation. And when you circle back around when applications open, be it over another call, a catch-up call, a shorter one, or even just a simple email, you can be like, I've been thinking of you in our conversation. And you get to that genuine point of networking where it is that back and forth that you talked about, Nishi. And yep. I mean, that's what life is all about, right? Like relationships and interacting with people. You may fight with me on that one. That's fine. That can be our question that we talk about in our networking call, what life is all about. But it's definitely, it's nice to remind yourself that there are people like that. And honestly, that does go back to why I chose Microsoft, is those people that I found myself thinking about, that I circled back around with, who gave me their time, were Microsoft PMs.